Greetings, we are in Senior English A, and we are today now finishing with our observations regarding Hamlet Act 1. We will now finish with the reading of the first act. We've got just a few lines left. Just to review, Hamlet and his old man have had a conversation. His dad's ghost. His dad's ghost has said two important things. One, my brother jacked me. And the way he did it was by pouring poison in my ear while I was taking a nap. Where? In the garden. That will be significant in what we call the garden theme of this play. Two, second thing that he tells his boy, you're going to have to jack my brother, the present king of Denmark, Claudius. And then he will leave. Leaving Hamlet now to speak the final lines, if you will, of the first act. Here we go. Are you ready? Sorry, I got to switch up. I apologize. All right, here we go. Remember thee. Hamlet's dad will say, don't forget about me. Awfully hard to do when you've seen a ghost, right?
Oh, you host of heaven.
Okay, here we go. Let's focus.
Oh, earth, what else? And shall I couple hell? Oh, my, hold my heart. And you, my sinews, grow not instant old, but bear me stiffly up. Remember thee, I, thou poor ghost, while memory holds a seat in this distracted globe. Remember thee. Yea, from the table of my memory, I'll wipe away all trivial fond records, all sores of books, all forms, all treasures past, that youth and observation copied there, and thy commandment all alone shall live within the book and volume of my brain, unmixed with baser matter. Yes, yes, by heaven, O most pernicious woman, O villain, villain, smiling, damned villain. My tables, meet it is, I set it down, that one may smile and be a villain. At least I'm sure it may be so in Denmark. So, uncle, there you are. Now to my word, it is adieu, adieu, remember me. I have sworn it.
My lord, what happened? Heaven's occurring.
So be it.
Hello, my lord. Hello, boy, come, bird, come.
How is my noble lord?
What news, my lord?
Oh, wonderful.
My lord, tell it.
No, you'll reveal it.
Aye, my lord, by heaven.
All right, my lord. How say your name will have a man once think it? But you'll be secret.
Aye, by heaven, my lord.
There's ne'er a villain dwelling in all Denmark, but he's an armed knave.
There need no ghost, my lord, come from the grave to tell us this.
What right, you're in the right. And so without more circumstance at all, I hold it we shake hands and part. You as your business and desires shall point you. For every man hath business and desires, such as it is. And for my own part, look you, I'll go pray.
These are but wild and whirling words, my lord.
I'm sorry, Vicar. Heartily, speak heartily.
There's no offence, my lord.
Yes, by St. Patrick, but there is, Horatio. And much offence, too. Touching this vision here, it is an honest ghost, that let me tell you. For your desire to know what is between us, all master it as you may. And now, good friends, as you are friends, scholars, and soldiers, grant me one poor request.
What is, my lord?
Never make known what you have seen tonight.
My lord, we will not.
Nay, but swear it.
In faith, my lord, not I.
All right, my lord, in faith.
Upon my sword.
You have sworn, my lord, already.
Indeed, upon my sword, indeed. Swear. How, boy? Say'st thou so? Art thou there, true penny? Come on. You hear this fellow in the cellarage? Consent to swear?
Propose the oath, my lord.
Never to speak of this that you have seen. Swear by my sword. Swear. Big Ed Ubique, then we'll shift our ground. Come here, the gentleman, and lay your hands upon my sword. Never to speak of this that you have heard. Swear by my sword. Swear. Well said, O mole, canst work in the ground so fast? O worthy pioneer, once more remove, good friends.
Oh, dear knight, but this is wondrous strange.
And therefore, as a stranger, give it welcome. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are kept of in our philosophy. But come, here as before, never so help you mercy, how strange or odd soe'er I bear myself, as I perchance hereafter should be meet to put an antique disposition on. that you at such times seen me never show with arms encumbered thus, or thus head shake, or by pronouncing of some doubtful phrase, as well we know, or we could, and if we would, or if we list to speak, or there be, and if there might, or such ambiguous giving out to note that you know aught of me, this not to do, so grace and mercy at your most need help you, swear, swear. Rest, rest, perturbed spirit. So, gentlemen, with all my love, I do commend me to you. And what so poor a man as Hamlet is may do, to express his love and friending to you, God willing, shall not lack. Let us go in together. And still your fingers on your lips, I pray.
Last words of the act.
The time is out of joint. Oh, cursed spite, that ever I was born to set it right.
All right, let's talk through it. I recommend notes in front of you. I recommend your text in front of you. Let's go to 1-1. We will spend now our time in Hamlet Act 1, and the objective is to try to lay a little bit of groundwork. Think about the way we addressed or studied Macbeth, and you will already have some precedent as to what it is we will do next. Remember with the play Macbeth, in especially the first act, we made observations about 2 ways to read the play. You might jot these down. One way to read a play of Shakespeare's is to just simply concentrate on the action itself. This would be what we would call the fundamental plot line. First this happens, then this happens, then this happens. An easy way to do that is to do what we call walk through the acts. That is to say 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, 1-5. Can you jot down 2 or 3 things from each one of those in the same way that you'll remember from Macbeth, 1-1, fair is foul and foul is fair, and so on and so forth, right? Okay, so we're able to answer the question in the play Macbeth, when do we see Macbeth for the very first time? 1-3. See, we can do that kind of thing. So that's the first thing, is to take a look at the action of the play and feel that you know it pretty well at level 1. That will allow you to prep for the examination fairly well. The second way to look at the play, and of course we did this with Macbeth, is to look at level 2, namely thematic approaches to the play. Not simply what is said, but what is meant. And it will be here that as well we will make some observations. So, for example, right away, in Macbeth 1-1, you'll notice how I'm moving back and forth between the 2 texts to help you make some kind of relationship to them. Remember, fair is foul and foul is fair, hover through the fog and filthy air, becomes a legitimate mantra for the entire play Macbeth. Good is bad. Bad is good. You won't be able to see very well because of all the wretchedness in the air. Well, you don't understand how important that line is at the beginning of Macbeth until you get halfway through that play, and then you start to realize the ways in which, thematically, that's a pretty compelling way to think about that play. By the end of the play Macbeth, we were asking questions and trying to answer them, like the one of our last writing assessment. To whom do you lay most blame in the downfall of the tragic hero, Macbeth? Do you blame it on Macbeth? Do you blame it on the witches? Do you blame it on his wife? Some combination of the 3 or whatever, okay? Now let's go to the play Hamlet. Now we've already pointed out that scholars will say this is the greatest of Shakespeare's plays. And so right away we're going to point out the ways in which thematically, Shakespeare will do the exact same thing in 1-1 of Hamlet that he does in 1-1 of Macbeth. Only he's going to do it even earlier. So that, for example, the opening lines of Macbeth began with, when shall we 3 meet again, in thunder, lightning, or in rain, when the hurly-burly's done, when the battle's lost and won, there to meet Macbeth. That's the opening lines. Hamlet's a little bit different. We have 2 bodyguards that come out. They are strapped with weaponry. That's important you realize this. They are ready for a major fight, but they are scared to death. And the opening lines of the play will in fact set up all of the major themes of the play. As we finish the play Hamlet, we will come back and look at the opening lines and say, this is pure genius for Shakespeare. Notice the very first words of the play are what? Look at them now with me at 1-1. We'll be paying close attention now to the text itself. You want to have it in front of you. You want to be looking, literally looking at 1-1, okay? What do you see there as the opening lines of the play? One guard sees another guard, but he can't quite see who he is. And so what is it that he says, the opening lines of the play? Now let's go ahead for your notes and point out that this is the theme often referred to in the play Hamlet as the theme of identity. Who is there? Now this is an interesting theme, Mr. Durant, because if you'll think about it, for you to actually watch this play, you have to watch actors. In other words, the person who plays Hamlet is not actually Hamlet. Right? It's a person named Ramos who dresses up in whatever way the producer of the play decides to do it and memorizes the lines that Shakespeare wrote for Hamlet, and then Ramos will say those lines. Do you got me? So right away, the question of identity will become an interesting one because you've got actors who are playing parts. Are you ready for this? In the play Hamlet, you have actors who play the role of actors. We're already too deep. But we can go even deeper. In the play Hamlet, you have Hamlet, who is an actor, playing the role of Hamlet, playing the role of a crazy Hamlet, because he's going to take on an antic disposition. Throughout the entire play, we're constantly going to be playing the game of identity. Who actually is Hamlet? Who is this person? Early on, Laertes, the son of Claudius, the brother of Ophelia, will say to Ophelia, "Let me tell you about guys." What do older brothers usually say when they say to their younger sisters, "Let me tell you about guys," right? Okay, then Laertes will say, "Let me tell you about one guy, namely Hamlet, who I think you've been hanging out with, little sister." And Ophelia will say, "Yeah, he's like really nice. He says nice things to me and he's a really good writer of those love notes." Laertes' older brother will say, "All garbage. Hamlet is not what he appears to be." Opening lines of the play. Who's there? The next lines, notice, to continue. The other soldier will say, "Dude, I'm not going to tell you who I am until you tell me who you are." Which betrays, obviously, the whole thing of fear. There's a lot of fears of what's going on. Notice the third line of the play will be, "Long live the king." Now, the idea here is, I work for the king. In other words, I'm a soldier just like you. "Long live the king," however, is going to be darkly ironic. Why? Because here in a second, we're going to find out that the king of Denmark was old man Hamlet is now dead. And yet, there's his ghost walking the battlements of the castle. We have a new king. Of course, the new king will end this play how? Note the irony of the opening lines. How will Claudius end up? Right, with a poisoned sword stuck through his abdomen, and he's drinking off a bunch of poisoned wine, right? In other words, the king will be dead by the end of the play. And on these kinds of lines go. If I had more time, and I don't, I could go into an exegesis of almost every single one of the opening lines of this scene to point out the double and even triple meanings Shakespeare's playing obvious games with an intellectual audience who can go back and study these plays. But let's get to the ghost. Why, I'll ask this question, why does Shakespeare play the game of having a ghost on the stage right away? You'll remember Horatio is brought up as the young student, best friend of Hamlet. And Horatio's observation is, "Psh, I'm a student. I don't believe in ghosts. I believe in science." That's the kind of thing it is, right? And then all of a sudden the ghost shows up. And Horatio's totally freaked out by this ghost. He can't believe it. He also can't believe that it looks so much like the old man Hamlet, right? That's obviously bad news as well. What's up with this ghost? Why do you think Shakespeare has a ghost appear right at the beginning of the play? And think about the way he starts the play Macbeth and do some comparative analysis. How does the play Macbeth open? Who speaks the words, "When shall we three meet again in thunder, lightning, or in rain?" Right, and you'll remember from that performance that you watched last fall, that if you didn't have, and I think most of you didn't, have any background knowledge in regards to this play, Macbeth, and you're just sitting there, and all of a sudden, like, the lights kind of dim, and then all of a sudden, out onto the stage comes these three actors wearing, do you remember it? Those weird masks, and they kind of like danced around. They kind of did some kind of choreography that made them almost look like they were slithering across the stage, right? I remember watching this with the group of students last fall, and there was this strange buzz that kind of went across the audience. You're like, dude, what are we, right? What do you call that? What do you call that for Shakespeare? What is he trying to accomplish early on in this play? He's trying to set what? Right, the mood, huh? Jot down, what kind of mood is set? Even when you're listening to it on audio, it works. What kind of mood is set When this ghost comes out onto the stage, clearly freaking out our pit audience, why freaking out the pit audience of Shakespeare's day? What do we... They believe in ghosts, you bet. They believe in ghosts. Shakespeare's audience believes in things called ghosts, that they actually walk around at night, especially at the middle of the night, and they can do things and speak and say things, right? The next thing I want to point out has to do with level 1, and it's a little bit confusing. And it's one of those things, if you watch the Mel Gibson performance of the play Hamlet, for example, as the movie, you don't ever hear about this idea within the play. They edit it out. It's what we call the Fortinbras subplot. After the ghost is seen in 1-1, they all kind of sit down for a second, and Horatio asks, why are soldiers standing on the battlements of the castle at Elsinore in Denmark? And the answer is simple. After the old man Hamlet died, there was a young man in Norway who was the son of a king. His name is Fortinbras. This young man decided that after old man Hamlet died, he was going to come back, march against Denmark, and take back lands that old man Hamlet had won in battle. So in other words, let's point out, we have some political problems potentially because of an outside potential invading force. Young Fortinbras will be like young Hamlet, the son of a king. At the very end of this play, when Hamlet draws his last breath, because he's been wounded, remember, by the poisoned sword, at the very end of the play, the obvious question is, who's going to be the next king? Because obviously it isn't going to be Hamlet, and obviously Claudius is dead, and Claudius has no next in line to reign. So what Hamlet will do at the end of the play is actually name young Fortinbras. Now the reason why this is important for Shakespeare's day is because you always have to finish these plays with some sense of political continuancy. Think about it, Nelson. At the very end of the play Macbeth, who comes on stage with the head of Macbeth? Macduff does, right? Macduff is the superstar warrior. But wait a minute. It isn't Macduff that gets to be King of Scotland. Now that's interesting. In a fight, in a fight, most likely, who wins between Malcolm and Macduff? Macduff kicks his butt. You bet. Macduff is the winner of that one. Well, then why doesn't Macduff get to be king? If he can beat up Malcolm, why doesn't he get to be king? Because if all you do is allow for the strongest, the guy who can kill the other guy, to be king, that's called Macbeth killing Duncan to get to the throne. You have to have a way to hand on power when you have monarchy. How do we do it in a democracy?
Elections.
Right, we have elections. You don't have elections in a monarchy, right? That's the funny line from Monty Python's Holy Grail, I didn't vote for you. You don't vote for a king, right? Okay, John Cleek's obviously making fun and reminding anyone who watches that under a monarchy you don't vote. People don't have a say. Well, I don't like the king. That's called treason, and then off with his head, right? Okay, that kind of thing. So at the very end of this play, Fortinbras will be the one who is accepting the power. We will finish 1-1 with the ghost reappearing one more time. Horatio is told to speak to it because he's the student and knows Latin, but the ghost has no interest in talking to Horatio. At the very end of 1-1, Hamlet, they decide, Hamlet needs to be told about his daddy's ghost walking the battlements. Let's now go to 1-2. 1-2, all of the retinue of the king, bodyguards, special people, all that, come onto the stage, and the King Claudius speaks for the first time. This is important for your notes. Claudius looks like a king. Claudius acts like a king. If you don't know this play, and you don't have any idea that Claudius is the cat who killed his own brother and took over the throne, if you don't know that about this guy, in 1-2, he looks like a great king. He does, and that's important. He comes onto the stage. he does this. He talks about the death of his bro. He says, I'm really sorry that he had to die, but don't worry, we've got it all taken care of. I've married the old King Hamlet's wife. I've taken over. The next thing he does is bring on a couple of ambassadors. He's going to send them to Norway to take care of this young kid Fortinbras, and ultimately they will, so that the guy's not going to march against Denmark. Then he will turn to Laertes, the young kid, and he will say, what do you want, Laertes? Laertes is the son of Polonius, and he says, I want to go back to school. Is it all right if I go? Claudius will turn to his second in command, old man Polonius, and say, are you cool with him going? And Polonius will say, yeah, he has wrung from me by laborsome petition. In other words, the kid keeps begging me to go back to school. In other words, Laertes wants to leave the home and get back to college. We might point out, in Paris, the city of love. Right? Okay, so there's a number of reasons why maybe Laertes wants to get back to school, not least of which he needs to study, if you get my drift. And Claudius will then say to Laertes, all right, you can go. And then he will turn and he will say, and now my cousin Hamlet and my son. Now, I've seen this done in a really cool way. Claudius comes onto the stage. He takes care of saying, I had to become king because old man Hamlet, my brother, died. He takes care of this whole thing in Fortinbras with Norway situation. He takes care of this thing with Laertes and Polonius and says, all right, Laertes, time be thine, you can leave, etc. Then all of a sudden, I've seen this done, where Claudius literally turns and looks, and it looks like he's speaking off stage when he says, and now my cousin Hamlet and my son. There's nobody there. It's like he's talking to the air. When all of a sudden, from out of a black curtain steps an actor who is wearing completely black and has a hood on that's black. If you've ever seen Star Wars, it's kind of a Jedi outfit. You know how they wear that hood thing? And he's got that hood. His face has been down. He's been standing there the whole time. Makes you want to go back and see the show again. And when everybody comes on stage, you're looking right there at that part of the black curtain. And sure enough, the actor Hamlet is he's been standing there the whole time. And you don't know he's been there as an audience. And it's quite provocative because it's quite a distance off to the side of the stage where Claudius will say, and now my cousin Hamlet and my son. There has been proximity between Polonius and Laertes and the ambassadors. They've all been fairly close to Claudius the king. But now all of a sudden he speaks, and he speaks 20 feet away, and the character steps out of the shadows. He raises his head. He is sheet white, like he has not seen the sun for a really long time. When he raises his face, and it's Hamlet. And it's the very first time we meet the lead actor of this play. Now let me pause and point out what I say every time I lecture this play. In your life going forward, if you ever meet anybody who says that he's an actor and he ever played the role of Hamlet, then you can go ahead right then and just start genuflecting and paying respect. Because to play this role is one of the most difficult roles to play in all of theater. And it was said to be so from the very beginning. One of the reasons is because of the prodigious number of lines you have to memorize. This is a really long play. It can last up to 3 hours if you do all of the lines. Hamlet has most of the lines. He speaks continuously. So if you're an actor at all, you're memorizing a buttload of lines. But secondly, to play the role of Hamlet, you have to have tremendous, how do we call it, Nelson, in acting? Range. You have to have tremendous range. In other words, Hamlet is emotionally all over the place. And to be an actor who plays this role, you have to be able to play that full range of emotions. When we see Hamlet for the first time, he is one jacked up kid. He steps out from the shadows and he will speak his first words, as I said in an earlier lecture to you, as an aside. A little more than kin and less than kind. Which tells the audience what he thinks about his stepdaddy. We know what Claudius is going to be like. Hey, come to Papa. I'm your new stepdad. You're going to love me better than your old... Hamlet's response to that is, first of all, you're a scumbag. I've never liked you as my uncle. Second of all, there is absolutely no way you get to be my dad. That's the view. Because my mom has brought you home and now tells me that I get to be your son. I don't think so. And so right away, a little more than kin and less than kind will be an alert to the audience. Uh-oh, something's wrong. Something's wrong between Claudius and Hamlet. The second point is Claudius has no clue. He doesn't get it. Look what he says next. He says to Hamlet, how is it that the clouds still hang on you? In other words, what? Can you put it in your own words? What's he say to the boy? What's up with this wimpy walking around being sad all of the time? How do we know he's sad? How do we know he's sad and in mourning? He's wearing full black. Also, his face will show that he is one jacked up kid. And the king will say, dude, what's up with this thing about mourning for the death of your dad still? Enough of it. Now, there will be a question right away of how long old man Hamlet's been dead. We don't really know yet. We don't really know yet. But let's go ahead and put it in your notes. It ain't been very long. In other words, Daddy died and Mama turned right around and brought home the new guy. And any of us that have ever been in that situation will say right away, it's just a little bit uncomfortable. All of the rhythms of the family get jacked up, and now all of a sudden Mama's happy. Nobody else is happy, but Mama's happy, and now all of a sudden we get to live with that and pretend like somehow we're all happy. Mama needs everybody to be happy as well. Hamlet is jacked up. But when the king says to him, how is it that the clouds still hang on you? Look at Hamlet's response, and it's the first time he speaks to any character on stage. Look what he says back to his stepdad. Not so, my lord. I'm too much in the sun. No. I've been suntanning. Claudius will, of course, look at him like, hello, I'm looking at you. Clearly you haven't been in the sun. You're sheet white. But then there's a second spelling of sun, isn't there? Not only S-U-N, but S-O-N. This is going to be a nasty way for the young Hamlet to say to his stepdad, you're not my stepdad. You're not my dad, and you never will be. At that moment, guess who steps forward? And it makes sense. This is such a modern play in this regards. Who steps forward? Clearly she's getting worried. Gertrude hasn't said a word yet. She's just been on stage standing there. But the minute Hamlet is recognized, she's going to step forward, and she obviously will try to protect. Well, this is the tough part for the mom, isn't it? She has her new guy, and she wants to protect him, but she also has her son, and she wants to protect him. And she's aware that son and stepfather very easily could start doing one of these things. And so she steps forward. Notice the queen. Good Hamlet, right? Cast thy knighted color off, and let thine eye look like a friend on Denmark. What does she say? I'm helping you to learn how to read Shakespeare. What does she say? Yeah, take off that black. What is with the black? Dude, come on. You're bringing us all down. Take off the black clothes and let your eye look like a friend on Denmark. Capital D, Denmark means what? Denmark means who? It means the King Claudius. In other words, what's she say? Be nice to you. Be nice to your dad. Come on, knock it off. Be nice to your dad. Keep going. Do not forever with thy veiled lids seek for thy noble father in the dust. Thou knowest 'tis common, all that lives must die, passing through nature to eternity. This will be significant. An introduction that we've already kind of been introduced to, and yet now it becomes full for us. The introduction of the death theme, the theme of death. This is Shakespeare's greatest play about death and dying. In fact, it almost seems every time Hamlet talks, he's thinking about the issues of mortality and death. What is it Mama just said to Hamlet? Come on, son, take off the black clothes. What's up with the black clothes? Really? Everybody has to what? Die. Everybody's got to die. Daddy had to die. There it is. Daddy had to die. Daddy died. Come on. Let's go. Cheer up. Enough with this morose stuff. Enough with this sad stuff. Enough with this walking around sighing all the time. What is up with you? Knock it off. Hamlet's response to everybody's got to die is, I, madam, it is common that everyone has to die. Notice what Mama says back. If it be, in other words, you understand that everybody's got to die, why does it seem so particular with thee? Whoa, what does that mean? She asks him what? Yeah, what's up with you then? If you understand everybody's got to die, including your father, who is apparently quite old, then what's up with you? Why do you seem so upset? And when she says the word seem, the actor who is playing Hamlet, this is why I say it's very difficult to play this role. The actor who is playing Hamlet, it looks like a fire. If you've ever been in the mountains camping and there's a fire and all of a sudden you take home and fuel, if you guys know what that is, and you dump that on top of that fire, what happens to that fire? That's what Hamlet looks like. At the minute she uses the word seems, Hamlet steps forward and now he's right in her space. He's right in her face. And he will say, he's enraged. It's like he goes from morose and, oh man, I lost my dad, to, I'm going to tear your throat out. Like in that much time. And while he does it, he speaks the words. Look what he says. Seems, madam? Nay, it is. I know not seems. She has used the word seem. Why do you seem so upset? His response is what? Whoa, whoa, whoa. None of that seeming stuff. Seeming would suggest what? Acting. Right, acting. Now notice already the irony. For an intellectual audience, this is fascinating. Hamlet as an actor is going to say, I'm not an actor. I'm not acting, Mom. Then he will make some interesting observations about acting. Look what he says. He says, seems, madam, nay it is. I know not seems. 'Tis not alone my inky cloak, good mother, nor customary suits of solemn black, nor wearing black clothes, nor windy suspiration of forced breath, walking around sighing. That's what sad people do. No, nor the fruitful river in the eye, sad people cry. Nor the dejected behavior of the visage, people have sad faces. Together with all forms, moods, shapes of grief that can denote me truly, these indeed seem. For they are actions that a man might play. But I have that within which passeth show. These but the trappings and the suits of woe. Put it in your own words. What's he just said to his mama? Boy, he jacks her. And he's right in her face. And what is it that he says? Pretending to be sad? Seeming to be sad? There's a lot of ways to appear to be sad. You can cry. You can wear black clothes. You can walk around. You can do all of that. You can fake it. You can act like you're sad. But I have that within which passeth show. What does he say about himself? I ain't no actor. I ain't no actor. Daddy comes back. He's going to call him a wimp. Listen, this really walking around sad all the time. You need to grow up and be a man. Oof. When a stepfather says to a stepson, you need to grow up and be a man, doesn't go over very well. Mama steps in one more time and says, Hamlet, look. I know you want to go away to college, not in Paris, but in Wittenberg in Germany. But I want you to stay with me. It'll be a dark irony that Claudius and the Queen both ask Hamlet to stay in Denmark. And because of that, Hamlet will later that evening meet his father's ghost, find out about his father being killed by his brother, and of course set the trajectory of the plot line of the entire play. They all leave him. Hamlet says, all right, I will obey you, madam. He doesn't say to his stepdad. He says, I'll obey you. And then Hamlet is finally left alone for the very first time. And now I want you looking at these lines. Hamlet will speak the very first soliloquy, and these lines become really important. He will step forward. Look what he says. All alone he is. Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt. I mean, roughly line 129, 130. Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew. Or that the everlasting had not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter. Whoa, whoa, what is self-slaughter? What does that mean? Self-slaughter means what? He says, I wish I could kill myself. The only thing that keeps him from killing himself is that everlasting God had fixed his canon, the Bible, against self-slaughter. In other words, if I kill myself, I go to hell. Whoa. So right away, let's point out something. Hamlet is telling the audience, he is one jacked up kid. He's ready to kill himself. What's he so upset about? Keep reading. Oh God, God, how weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. What does he say about the world? It sucks. The world sucks. Then he uses the F word. It's right there. Of course, it's the F word of 1600, which is a different F word. Fie on it, he says. Fie, the world. And then he uses an interesting word picture. Look at it. He says the world is an unweeded garden that grows to seed. Now, what is an unweeded? If your mama has an unweeded garden, what does that mean? Tended or untended? The world is untended. There is no care. There is no comfort in the world. Why is Hamlet so upset? Keep reading. Things rank and gross in nature possess it merely. That it should come to this. And I want to point out